Welcome in, everyone, to the 12 Talk podcast. My name's Josh, and with me, as always, is my co-host Mitch. We have got a very, very special guest tonight. We have got Bryce Coots from the Hawks Eye podcast. Now, he's going to talk to us all about sort of what started with the Hawks Eye. We're going to look at the roster review. There's going to be some other bits and bobs of news that we'll go through as well. Some quite pressing, which has polarized the fan base, let's say. So thanks for joining in, everyone. And we will see you right after this. Here we are, back again. Mr. Bryce Coots, how are you doing, mate? You all right?
Oh, I'm good, guys. How are you?
Fantastic, as always. Yeah, it's brilliant to have you on. I mean, you are a returning guest. You're one of our most frequent returning guests, and we love having you on for your insight as well. But there's been some changes recently in your podcasting world. So for anyone that is a listener to ours, may not be a listener to yours, do you want to fill us in? But what's happened?
Yeah, so I am no longer affiliated with the Hawk Zone Rundown podcast. Me and Ryan decided to go separate ways. Ryan's continued on with the channel. I've, on the other hand, developed the Hawks Eye podcast, and I got to give Brandon Kane, Mookie Alexander, and Dan Vien's credit. The name kind of spawned from our trip at training camp when we were watching at FanFest at the scrimmage game, and Brandon happened to actually have tickets on the other side of the stadium from me, Mookie, and Dan. And I was able to pick out Brandon instantly from the other side. And Mookie turned to me and he goes, "Man, you got a Hawk's Eye for that." And then we were all sitting together, and I'm the one that picked up the arm brace on Christian Haynes because he was wearing one. And I said, "I think this is why he's not participating, guys. I think he's actually injured, and they're just not saying anything yet." And then it came out just after the practice that he was injured. And so Dan said the same thing. So when me and Ryan decided to separate, I kind of wanted to say, how do I come up with a Seahawk-related name, but kind of leans into my coaching background and my keen eye for detail on certain things. And then that kind of popped into my head. And here we are now. And I've got the Hawks Eye going. And I started it about 2 weeks ago. I've had a couple guests on. We're about to drop tonight my episode with Rob Staten, which was a great interview. Even got into some early 2026 draft talk with Rob because it was done during the college football opener yesterday. And yeah, going to have a lot more daily content on my show. There's only, I think, 2 days a week that I won't be doing something, where something won't be coming out on the channel, and we'll have live pregame and postgame shows so everyone can tune into those. But I'm really excited about it. It's kind of a cool adventure to be doing it on my own now and kind of have full creative control of the show and the direction it wants to go in. And so, yeah, I'm really excited for it.
There you go. And if anyone wants to follow you, there you go. Just down there. I never know which way I'm pointing. There you go. You can follow the Hawks Eye Pod on YouTube. Quite easy to find on there. And also on X, you can follow Bryce at Seahawks Eye. There you go. And if you haven't already, by all means, like and subscribe to his channel, to our channel. We welcome everyone in. And we tend to get together a couple of times during the season, usually to have a couple of breakdowns and some talks. So, and if you do want to join any of us when we're not podding, you can join our Discord. It's completely free. Link goes in the comments. It's also down below in the description. Seahawks fans from all over the world, and we just talk Hawks constantly with a whole bunch of random memes thrown in as well. So, shall we talk about some? Obviously, we're going to talk about the roster. There's been a little bit of movement. There's been some sort of shifts on the practice squad and the 53 and whatnot, some surprises, which we'll get into. But I think the most pressing news at the moment in Seahawks circles has to be around the rivalry jerseys. And I need to talk about this because I've been getting into some heated debates with people. And we'll have a little chat about it, then we'll get onto the roster because people might be a bit bored of it. But with this, for any of you that don't know, we are sponsored by Flying V Vintage Sports Clothing. They're a UK-based vintage sports clothing company. They are making concerted effort to get as much Seattle based vintage clothes as possible. They have jerseys. We've got training stuff, everything. They've got some Sonics gear in there. I bought myself a Sean Kemp Sonics jersey to wear at a music festival I was DJing, and got some quite nice comments about it. So if you want to go onto them as well and you want to try it, by all means, use code 12Talk at checkout. You get 20% off there as well. The link is down below. But here we go. Rivalry jerseys. Gentlemen.
Hate it.
Mitch, it's always the guest first, but you must be.
I know, but I was bursting to say it. Yeah, I was bursting to say it. Not a bit of me, but I do want to hear what Bryce has to say about it.
So it's really funny. I like the actual design of the jersey. I'm not a fan of the base color of the jersey. So I'm not a fan of the gray part of it. What I would have liked to see is a darker jersey, like almost a dark blue with the neon green or the whatever green they're using. Sorry, I don't want to even say the word because I'll butcher it. But on the shoulders, I really like the helmet though. The way that they changed the color on the helmet. And I like the little detail they've done inside the numbers, which is they've put the 12 logo inside the entirety of the numbers on the actual jersey. I do like that. Like I get what they were going for. The problem is with doing the white, it comes out more of an Oregon Duck style of jersey than anything. I've heard some people say that in close, there's more blue to it than what you see on the photos, which will be nice to see, like a nice touch to it. I think personally, like I've been saying this for a while, and I think what they need to do is they need to rebrand the home and away jersey to a mix of the retro styling and the way the retro is designed, but incorporate the new Seahawk logo and a couple of the newer features to it to modernize it and make that your home logo. Then you have this, because the only thing I question with this jersey is the one thing about the blue and the white home jersey is they were such a departure from what everyone else was doing at the time in 2012. Like they were out there. There's still kind of an out there jersey. Like there's not a lot of ones that have really steered into what Seattle did with the amount of like different color combinations on it and stuff. And then to do this, which is even more out there, it's like the one thing that you've got going is these retro jerseys you've brought back. Steer into that, and then that way you get the retro modernized to this as being your rival. It might sit better with the majority of fans. And I can see why fans don't like it. Like it's kind of bland with the gray. Like that's the only issue I have with it personally. Like I'm okay with them. I don't think they're, home runs, but I don't think they're bunts per se.
Yeah, I don't Mitch, you hate them, but I'm going to say my piece before you absolutely blast them. I genuinely think someone at Nike went, I love the wolf grey. We've still got loads of it. We have that specific color palette. Let's use it on another jersey at some point. And I had a wolf grey jersey. A lot of people did. They were a bit meh to me. I think and I've said this to multiple people, and you see it all over X and everywhere. It looks like a Ducks jersey. And let's not get it twisted. The Seahawks are the closest NFL team to the Nike headquarters in Oregon. If you look at the Ducks, I'm a Ducks supporter. Don't come after me in the comments. But yeah, I know. It's the benefit of being from the UK. I don't have that hometown tie. But when you look at Ducks jerseys, so the new collar that's used in the NFL at the moment, that was trialed in Ducks jerseys about a year or two before it was actually used in the NFL. And every prototype jersey for the NFL is trialed through the Ducks. So Nike are going to go, well, we have this stamp that we use for a really successful brand of jersey in the college game. Let's try and use something similar with the Seahawks because it was so successful with college with the jersey sales. It was always going to happen. There was always going to be some blend there where they've gone, these do really well. We love that pattern on the shoulders. Let's try and do something the same with Seattle. And this is what we're left with. I nearly bought one and I decided against it. And I've just bought myself a throwback Cam Chancellor jersey, but not the throwback, the Mitchell and Ness throwback from before we did the whole jersey swap. So, Mitch, go on. You seem to be champing at the bit just to.
No, you guys have covered it.
Like
I think you've covered it. There's features that I love. I love the iridescent or sort of pearlescent effect on the helmet. I love the way the light catches the sort of. They're supposed to be sound waves, aren't they? But they really do look like feathers on the shoulders. Like, I have nothing wrong with the design. The choice of colors for me is poor. They're not Seattle cut, but they are as in the way that it's like the wolf gray mixed with emerald green and fine, but it just doesn't. You don't look at it and think Seahawks. You look at it and think Ducks. You look at it and think just anything other than Seattle. And I know that it's supposed to be like an away style jersey as well. It just isn't Seahawks for me, and it's the price tag on it. I know we're talking about the design of it rather than the price tag. That is a lot of notes to fork out for something that just doesn't look like your team's colors.
I will say this: I like it better than the action green.
Well, yeah,
not hard.
Yeah,
just saying
that's being phased out for sure. But I think the one thing that we have to be really appreciative of as NFL fans, jerseys don't change that often. If you are a UK soccer fan or a UK sports fan, your home jersey and your away jersey changes every season near enough, to the point where the last game of the season, they usually wear next season's jersey to try and bump up sales for it. At least we're only bringing these out every couple of years, and we can still rock the Navy home jersey, and we know that's not going to change just yet. This might be the kiss of death where they're released next year that they're going to change everything. And if that's the case, I'm deeply apologetic, Seahawks fans. Well, there we go. By all means, you can pop your comments in the comment section here, and we'll see what everyone says. I did see one saying it's god awful. Oh, Yannick,
Yeah.
I had hoped for something else, but I kind of like them. The details in the helmet are really nice. Not high on the wolf grey. Yeah, general consensus. And covering up Bryce, beautiful face there. Sorry, mate. Shall we get into the nuts and bolts of this pod?
Yeah.
A roster review for ourselves, or a roster breakdown. Now, before we go into how it ended up, I'll ask you first, Bryce. Did you see the initial 53-man roster shaking up the way it did?
Yes, I did. After, especially the receiver group where they took 6 guys, I kind of had figured that when I had seen the fact that Damian Martinez wasn't standing out as a running back this preseason, and George Holani did. I figured, okay, they're gonna, right. I had already kind of assumed that the running back spot was going to be going to the practice squad. They were going to try and sneak him through. And I figured that they weren't going to keep Damian Martinez because George Holani had played so well. And there were some things Mike McDonald had said before cut down and leading up to the weeks 2 between the Chiefs game and the Packers game about Brady Russell and how important Brady Russell was. And I went, yeah, they're not letting him sneak through the practice squad. They're not letting Jake Bobo sneak through the practice squad or try and do that. So they're going to keep 6 receivers. And Derek Young had really come on. And I was starting to see MVS play more and more into later parts of the preseason games, especially versus the Chiefs and then versus the Packers for sure. And I went, I don't know if his roster spot's so secure, and I could see them keeping 6. The thing for me, defensively, the one thing that surprised me was the number of safeties that were kept, the 5 of them initially. I have always loved Ty Okada, and I thought, man, I really hope he plays well enough to get on this year, but he could be a guy you could sneak through the practice squad in case you really wanted to keep DeAnthony Bell. And the cornerback room shaped up. There was nothing that really overly surprised me, I'd say. There were 2 guys that made it that I was kind of shocked, and Nick Callerup and Connor O'Toole. And I loved Connor O'Toole from when they signed him in UDFA. But those are about the only 2 surprises for me, I'd say. Other than that, the numbers and how they broke down, I relatively kind of had a feeling that's how things might turn out this year.
Yeah, we went a different way. So we thought they were going to keep an extra running back based on how run heavy they'd be. So we had the conversation on one of our previous pods, whether it was going to be Wright or it was going to be Martinez, and it was unanimous that it was going to be Jacardier Wright because of how well he played in that preseason. But we managed to sneak him onto the practice squad, and there was a lot of people saying, "Oh, well, if you put him on the practice squad, you might never get him back." But I think statistically, is it 2% of people that go to waivers actually get signed? Although we seem to have booked that trend this year, and we've signed 2, 3, I think.
At least 2. Poople was one of them. Wasn't
Chaz
swearing.
Surratt. Yeah, Chaz Surratt and Courtney Jackson
Kendricks.
as well. Oh,
Yeah.
Kendricks, there you go.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Great.
it's yeah. I think I need to go back through our pod, Mitch, to see how close we were. I
Well, we
think we were
started out pretty good,
yeah.
and then it just kind of, tailed off a bit.
I'm
But I
glad
think
we
some
got
of the decisions we
Carter
got
got in
right.
there though.
Yeah, some of the things we were saying about certain players absolutely came true, and I think we said that Jacardia Wright will either make the roster or will he'll be a high priority player to get back on the practice squad, and I'm really pleased he is. I think if we suffer an injury to the running back room early on, they'll be quite confident bumping either him or Martinez up. So we are truly blessed with some high quality backup at running back. But Callerup was a big surprise to me. I thought that was already quite a thick room when you look at the fullbacks providing depth to that room as well. But otherwise, yeah, I think we were relatively on the right lines.
I mean, do we want to have a quick look at let's start with the offense and just see? And I will say this is from the Seahawks website. Okay, so don't come at me again. From literally 10 minutes before we went live on air, because I wanted to get as up to date as possible. So their depth chart as of 10 minutes ago. Exactly what we've said there. I mean, your wide receivers, Cooper, you've got Cup, Bobo, White, JSN, Horton, and Dorit Young. The one of the big surprises for me, because I didn't think he played that well in preseason, was Bryce Cabledew. And I know, Bryce, you were high on him. And I'm not doing this to like poke the bear, but I saw him in so many snaps where, and I think someone said in our last pod, he was like a revolving door. And there was some times where he was well and truly beaten. I can see why you'd want to keep him on the 53-man and coach him up, because this is his scheme. This is the scheme he excelled at in college as well. But
the thing I'll say about Cabledew's preseason, I think it's missed, is we're talking about a guy that played tackle all throughout college. He never really played guard. You started him through all of spring camp, so OTAs and everything. He was a right guard, and he started the first 3 weeks at right guard, and he was a right tackle in college. He wasn't really a left tackle. And then you flip him to the left side, and you got Josh Jones there, and then you had Kite play with him at points too. And then you had him playing really with the third center. Olu wasn't really Jalen Sundell much. That's a lot to ask on a rookie to kind of adjust to that on the fly and go. And I think that's why you're seeing him brought through to the 53, because there was tape of him though through the preseason that I saw where he, with the run game especially, he did a really good job of getting to the second level, knowing his assignments. Pass pro, yeah, I think that's something definitely he's going to have to work on, which is fine, but I'm okay with that with a rookie guard. If we go, okay, it's not the greatest, but there's still, you can see the potential of it being there, with, especially if we're running a run heavy offense. And I think it's a lot of what we saw with Anthony Bradford for a few years here, where you saw a guy that struggled in pass pro, could run block really well. Now you give him to year 3 in a system that actually doesn't force your lineman to play drop back protection all day long. Mm-hmm. You might see some success there. The thing for me is, you look at who's not on this group from last year, and it's guys that had nothing to do with John Benton's group, realistically.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, Bryce, I mean, we were talking a few weeks back about Mike McDonald's comments about the kind of group they drafted, and he made the point that, hey, we weren't drafting necessarily for ceiling. We were drafting to bet on our coaching staff. He took the focus away from the players and said, look, we've picked a bunch of guys with a lot of room to be coached, and we've said our coaches are up to it. Well, when you look at that Bryce Cabledew pick on the 53, that's a guy who's got scheme familiarity and upside. And whilst he didn't show it on the tape that he was good enough, they're betting on our coaching staff to take a piece that is capable in the future and coach him up. So I like the consistency of making that comment and staying true to it with the next stage of the offseason. The whole way through, there's been this narrative of we believe in our coaches. Well, some of these picks on the 53 lean massively into that. MVS, which we'll come to later, is another great example. They've got rid of a veteran a wide receiver that was in there to do a specific job and be part of the toolbox, and instead they've gone, we've got guys who can do that can be coached to potentially be better than MVS. We don't need to pay him. We'll invest the time with the coaches into those players. So they've been really consistent, and I love the message.
The one thing I'll add to this, though, just before you go there, Josh, is they need to add a veteran guard. Yeah. They do. You can't turn around and go to Mason Richmond or Bryce Cable, or what I think will happen if you lose, say, Bradford for a game or two, or a Zabel, is you will be kicking Sundell out to guard and putting Olu in at center is kind of the plan. I'd like to see them go sign Shane Lemieux, who just got cut by New Orleans. He played for Benton last year. Fits the scheme, good depth piece to have, and it takes that pressure off, similar to what we've done with our quarterback situation. Put kind of a buffer layer between Richmond and Cable having to play right away, and put someone in there that can actually kind of help you out in that situation where if you were to lose one of your starting guards.
Like it.
Yeah, like it. I mean, for me, for anyone who's joining us on this pod who hasn't seen us before, if you're joining through either us or through the Hawk's Eye, we like to do a winners and losers. And this isn't to like poke fun at anyone. This is just our personal opinion, and we'll get to them. And the guys have got some fantastic shouts for this, but I'll give an impromptu. And I don't know if anyone said Mason Richmond. Was that anyone's pick? No. Was that? Nope. Excellent. Mason Richmond. I'm just going to put it out there. I thought he earned that. They moved him all around the line. I thought he was really, really good at centre when he played there. You know, he had full command. He seems someone they're very high on. He seems very coachable as well. And when you've got that multiplicity, that's what they're looking for. They don't want to go, oh, like you said, oh, no, we've got no guards. Who can we put there? They want to go, we've got no guards, but we've got a guy here who can play tackle, centre, or guard in a pinch if we need to put him there. So I was really enamored with that pick. I think the rest of it we kind of know, but shall we spend? There's two positions that I really want to talk. And as an offensive coordinator, Bryce, I think you're the perfect man to speak to about this. Tight end and fullback. So we've essentially kept 6 tight ends, 4 that are designated as tight ends, and 2 that are fullbacks, but were tight ends that have now gone to fullback. Now, in the QBack scheme, I know obviously it's run heavy. We're going to talk about Caller up as well, but is that purely from a blocking standpoint that we've kept that many, Bryce, or is there another reason?
Hold on 1 second, guys. There's something going on. I don't want it to ruin the audio. Give me 1 second.
There you go. And whilst he's waiting, for anyone who is joining either through our stream or through Bryce's stream, thank you so much. If you want to do us a massive favor, so we're the UK Seahawks official podcast. If you want to drop us a like on this video, subscribe to either channel, that would really, really help us. It helps with the reach, and it means we'll be able to get more 12s come on and talk to us as well. So, Bryce.
Yes.
Fullbacks and tight ends.
Fullbacks and tight ends. So the one thing you got to look at with this scheme, and it's very much personnel based, right? So what Kubiak wants to do, and what this scheme has done all the way back to Bill Walsh when he brought it in with the 49ers in the 80s, is your tight ends become a very crucial part in mismatches, especially when you force defenses to play a certain package. And so when you bring 2 tight ends onto the field, like AJ Barner and Elijah Arroyo, and even if you have a fullback in there that is a viable receiver, that's the key point in this too. You look at Robbie Utes and you look at Brady Russell. Especially in Robbie Utes' case, he's very much a bulldozer and can run people over. We saw it in the preseason, but he's athletic enough that if you get him in the flats and he catches a ball, he can turn that up into a 15-yard gain. And it's the same thing with the tight ends. You're not going to see a lot of what we saw last year with Ryan Grubb, and even with Shane Waldron. As much as Waldron was supposed to be from this tree, he was a grave departure from it in some respects, where we saw a lot of 11 personnel, we saw some 10 personnel, we saw a bunch of different things like that. You're going to see more of the 12 personnel. You're going to see more of the 13 personnel. You might see 21 and 22 personnel even. And with that, what it does is it causes a defense to take some of their DBs off the field. And we know for the last few years in the NFL, teams have gone to a too high shell. They've gone to nickel and dime packages a lot, bringing that extra DB on, taking linebackers off. Well, if you're nickel defender, like put it this way, if it's say Witherspoon, that not Nick Emenwari, but a Witherspoon type, a true nickel corner, is having to take on Robbie Oots coming off the edge, play in and play out, that's going to beat up your nickel corner. And then now he's also having to cover an AJ Barner or Elijah Arroyo, who's 6'5", 6'6" plus, 250 plus, that can move. It makes things challenging on a defense. So now you get them stuck more into a base formation, which we saw Kansas City play that opening drive versus us. They had 3 true linebackers on the field and 4 down linemen. They were in a true 4-3, and you saw the play action game take over, where now you're leaking the tight end out into the flat, which Sean McVay has done to us. And that's the biggest thing. This offense takes defenses and makes them play more traditional. And the problem is now with the way college is gone and all that, you don't have some of those traditional pieces where, hey, yeah, our linebackers are 230 and can handle that tight end coming off the edge constantly, and that fullback now coming, that's gone. Now our linebackers are built on getting to the flats and getting to the hook curl and covering a slot receiver. Well, now that that's not there anymore, we're in a bit of a disadvantage. And that's why you see the 49ers and the Rams lead the NFL and are up in the top when it comes to rushing. And then you see that their explosive play counts also up, because now you get teams to suck down. Now you get teams that have to check run first, and you get your big shot plays over the middle, which is where I think AJ Barner is going to be a huge factor this year in the tight end room.
Nice. Mitch, any opinions?
Yeah, well, I mean that was a lot of really, really high quality information. I think.
Do you expect
it's going
less?
to be really. No, I didn't. I mean, if we take this all the way back to, are we surprised to see, effectively 6 tight ends on one roster? I'm not. I think we're going to see targets spread around a lot. We're going to see a lot of players involved in screens, and it's advantageous to have not only tight ends on the field, but fullbacks getting ahead and getting to the next level. I think we'll see carries as well from the fullbacks. They're just going to be involved, and you're still going to need tight ends in rotation. You're going to need depth there for injuries, and you're going to need the tight ends that are designated as fullbacks to enable you to be in those formations when you need them. So if you're going to use those formations and you need the fullbacks and you need the tight ends, then you need the depth, because the NFL is going to give you injuries. The injuries won't respect whether it's week 1 or week 14. You're going to get them. You're going to get them at the wrong time. You need that depth, and they are physical roles. So you need to be playing at 100%. So it doesn't surprise me, actually, but I was probably blindsided a little bit by just how much we lent into that. Maybe 5 would have been something I expected, not 6. But yeah.
Here's the interesting thing I'll say about some of it. I am going to be very curious to see with Nick Caller up. He gives me Zach Miller vibes, massive Zach Miller vibes when I watch him, and just the way he blocks and some of the things. Like, you didn't, unless you really knew he was out on the field and you dove into it. Like when I went into the all-22 stuff and really started to watch the all-22, I was like, who is this tight end that is like drive blocking guys down the field? And it was Nick Caller up. And I think for them, they looked at it going, okay, with Eric Sauber, is he going to be a guy that's going to be here next year? Or maybe not. And maybe that's where you look at Nick Caller up and go, like, they could get to a point halfway through the year. And if Caller up's doing really well in practice and they're starting to get him in and he can contribute on specials, maybe Eric Saubert becomes, as crazy as it sounds, because Saubert had a phenomenal preseason. They could go, hey, we want to go younger, and maybe we need to move some cap, space a little bit, even though they have quite a bit for a move before the trade deadline. Maybe that's where you see a Nick Caller up stick on this roster because of that factor, and that's where they can let someone else go. And he did look amazing. Saubert looked amazing in preseason.
Herbicide, I think you were right. I think we were a bit when we first signed Sorbet. I think it's pronounced Sorbet.
Posh.
I added some flavour to it. We weren't that high on him because of obviously the amount of teams he's been on. He's a pretty one-dimensional tight end where he's there purely for blocking. He might get the occasional target, but all throughout preseason, he showed why he's there as that blocking tight end. But then Callerup, and when we spoke to Brian Nemhauser sort of last month, he was high on Callerup. He said to keep an eye on him because he's someone that the coaching staff will really like. And you can see why. I mean, there was a pancake block on one of the highlights that I saw where he did just drive the guy sort of 6-7 yards off onto sort of like the tackle side, and he just drove him into the ground. And I thought, wow, you didn't see him do anything else of note. But if that's what he's there for, essentially having an extra tackle on the field in this like wide zone offense is going to be perfect, because it helps to seal that edge as well against any rushes or anyone coming through there. So I'm intrigued to see what he does, and I'm intrigued to see if if there is a swap or a trade, if it's going to be Callerup or Sorbert that actually stays.
Yeah.
So with that, we've started talking. Oh, go on, Mitch.
I was just going to say he basically put that guy in the Gatorade, like he was just putting him where he wanted to put him on that play. It was impressive. So yeah, memorable. Yeah,
it was. And the thing is, though, is those type of plays from a rookie, as Mike McDonald says, you know, that get you noticed and keep you on a roster. They put you on the 53, and obviously it worked for him. Yeah. So we started talking about how our offense is going to start moving defenses around. But shall we talk about how our defense is going to start asking offenses to move around? And were there any real surprises, without going into your winners and losers? Were there any real surprises on this? So, Bryce?
I think the biggest surprise for me is they didn't keep a true nose tackle on the 53. Like, I don't want to see Byron Murphy stuck at nose tackle for another year. Like, if you're talking about what you've said, which was when we drafted him, he was the best defensive player in the draft, then you need to start using him in that light and not just sticking him at nose. I get putting him at nose in sub packages. Like, if we're talking 3rd and long and you've got DeMarcus Lawrence and you've got Leo there, and then you've got, say, Chenna or Boy Mafe and Derek Hall on the outside, and you're bringing a true presser package, then Byron Murphy at nose tackle makes some sense. But we're talking early rundowns, we're talking running situations. I'd rather see Jaron Reed there and Byron Murphy bump to a 3-tech spot. And that, to me, is the one thing. Like, I get they kept Brandon Peely and they kept Bohanna, but they're going to have to elevate them. And when they do that a certain amount of times, I think it's 3 times, then they've got to make a decision, or he can't be re-elevated to the practice squad or from the practice squad again. It's the one area for me where I kind of looked at it. Like, I know was worried about inside linebacker, and they've obviously addressed that since then with, Surratt and Chris Paul Jr., who I don't think will be on the practice squad very long. I think they'll have to protect him a couple of times with that ability, and then they're going to have to elevate him. But they're going to use Nick Emenwari in weak side linebacker dime situations where he's basically playing a nickel dime defender, but he's really a weak side linebacker, and he's inside and helps in the run. That's where they're getting away with not having an extra 3rd inside or 4th inside linebacker right now that they have Surratt. But I still think it'll be interesting to see if he actually suits up on game days or if he's more of a depth piece there. That was the one thing for me, I think, that stood out, was the no nose tackle.
Yeah, I think when we did our roster predictions episode, we put Peely. Did we put them both in, Mitch? Because not knowing what's happening with Jonathan Hankins.
Yeah, I don't think we put Jonathan Hankins in any over the last few weeks, and we definitely put Peely in all of them. I think Bohanna made it into our last one, because I think both Peely and Bohanna had good preseason games, had good camps. It was hard to imagine us rolling without at least one on the roster. So absolutely back up what Bryce said. I think it's surprising that we don't have at least one, especially considering how good both of them played.
I think like Bryce said, with having them both on the practice squad, it means we're going to have like both of them 3 times each as a maximum. So that's 6 games there. But I think it's very much a matter of, when you look at this, the defense and how it rolls here, we've said it that we think Mike Morris is firmly, he's on that 53, but if he doesn't show out at the start of the season, he's one of the first ones out the door, which means that I think they'll end up listing Murphy possibly as a defensive end, 3-tech, and then they'll bring a nose tackle in. But I mean, when you look at sort of, for me, surprises, I think Jared Ivey, not a surprise based on how he was all throughout the preseason, and they've been raving about him in training camp. There's one thing that I noticed on this. When you look at the Sam linebacker spot, you've got Boye and Derek Hall first. Second is Connor O'Toole, and third is Chenna. Now, is that just because they're working Chenna back up to full fitness and getting him in, and then he'll usurp O'Toole in that second string? Or do they just not know what's happening with him at the moment?
I don't think it makes sense to immediately put Chenna in a position where he's getting a lion's share of snaps if you don't need him to. I think easing him back in is probably the wisest thing they could do. I mean, he's missed the best part of 2.5 seasons, but it's not like he's missed one season and they're getting him back in. This is a guy who has played 3 games, 4 games at NFL level in 36 months. It's quite a profound gap in his CV. So to suddenly put him straight back in as a starting edge, I would be more surprised if he was right at the top of that depth chart. I do think he can get back up there though. With the snaps he gets when coming on the field fresh each time and healthy, he can make some plays, and I think he'll demand more snaps as he goes. But I think starting him off light is the right move.
Yeah.
For me, it'll be interesting with Chenna. I'm interested to see how that affects Boy Mafe and Derek Hall, especially in rundown situations, because I think you're going to put potentially Lawrence and Chenna on the field at the same time in rundown situations. And Hall, who has last year, as much as I loved what Hall did, he did struggle as a run defender. I could see a situation where now they're going to put him more in his pass rush ability and just go get the quarterback. And also highlight Boy Mafe and see if Boy Mafe can develop, because Boy Mafe is a good run defender, but he struggles as being a consistent pass rusher. And if you have to pay one of those two over the next 2 seasons, you got to figure out really quickly who's going to be that guy.
Yeah, I think as a Seahawks fan, we're blindsided saying that we love Boye. He's a fantastic character for around camp. You know, everyone on the team loves him. We love Derek Hall, his story, and what like the uptick he had in year 2, same as what Boye had. They sort of mirror each other in that regard. But I think a lot of the conversations came out about when the possibility of trading for Hendrickson or Parsons was in there. It was, who would you trade if you were to offer a young, outside linebacker, like edge rusher? Who would it be? And I think unanimously people said Boye. And I think from an impact point of view, I can understand it, because you'd want to keep Derek Hall. A, he's younger. He's got an extra year on his contract as a rookie deal. But B, I think he has the potential to be a Seahawks captain. I think he's that type of player, and I think he's the type of player that Mike will absolutely love to have on his roster. But that's something for me that I was trying to keep an eye on when all the talk started happening and everyone started mentioning Boye. I was like, if I had to go between the two, I'd probably say the same, and it would hurt me to see Boye somewhere else, because I think he's a fantastic character.
I think Boye will be somewhere else next year. I do. I love the guy. I think, but he's been so up and down as a player. Like, you've seen him go for that streak he had. What was it? 8 consecutive games with a sack, and then nothing. The production just fell off a cliff. Derek Hall, from the first year with Pete Carroll, they had no idea how to use Derek Hall. And that was the thing I kept saying going into last offseason was, they don't know how to use Derek Hall. Mike McDonald's going to figure out how to get the most out of Derek Hall initially, and it would look like a rookie year. But Derek Hall explodes and makes impact plays. And the thing that showed up last year for me with Hall that I didn't really think was there was the bend and the explosion. He looked like a big rusher, which was great coming out of college, but some of the bends he had on some of his rushes really surprised me. And he's got a relentless motor. And I think his run game skill set is something that's easier to develop than a pass rush skill set in some respects. And we've seen guys that have, been Darrell Taylor, as much as people said, oh, he's going to be such a pass rush, but he had no moves. He was just speed. That was it. That was all he had.
Exactly what we said on the last one.
Just washed him out. Okay, run around the edge. Go for a run there, Wile E. Coyote. It's fine. We'll go run the ball right underneath you.
And this is the reason why Tyreek Smith isn't on this roster either, because we said it on our last pod. Well, I said it, and I hang my hat on this. He's just Taylor 2.0. He's all bend, all speed, nothing else. You saw him give up on any type of tackle that had power over him. He'd put his hands in his chest and go, "I'm not winning that," and it'd just be like a child pushing against an adult. And then it was like, "I'll try beating with speed," but then they went, "Well, we know that's all you've got, so we'll take you on the outside and take you for a walk." I think Derek Hall's has got more in him. I don't know how much I trust a man that trains in shorts that short, but each to their own. And it's coming from a rugby player. Our shorts are typically very short, but yeah. So defensively, I found O'Toole to be, and I know both of you guys were high on him. He was my shock, but I think it's one of those with this coaching team now. If they see someone that has the raw elements, has performed well in preseason and training camp, and they go, we can develop you into someone that we think could be a more than capable backup. I think that's what they saw in him.
Yeah, I honestly, with O'Toole, and I'm sure I'll talk about him in a bit, but for me, what really stood out was he constantly found a way to influence the pocket in the preseason. And that for me was something I wanted to see from him, but he also was good at setting the edge, which I was worried about with him, because when he's a little bit lighter, is he going to be able to set the edge properly and do some of those things, even though he's going up against third and fourth teamers and guys that won't be on a roster come the end of preseason? Can he make enough of an impact? Because the pass rushing and speed he brings is up there. Like, that's why you saw him get the money he got as a UDFA. And he shocked me. He was someone I was really high on. I thought, him and Jared Ivey were going to be two interesting guys that could make this roster. And if they play him as an outside linebacker, which I think is what they're going to play him as, he has the ability to drop into coverage and be an effective coverage guy if you have to drop him. He's that much of an athlete. I think Connor O'Toole, we might see more of him in the season than we're even expecting to see in some respects.
Don't go too far in. If he's one of your winners, we'll get a bit more.
I've got way more.
I know. For the winners and losers, we have to go. You go one, he goes one, and we'll have to do it that way. So let's just get into special teams, because special teamers are people too. Okay, we all know that kicking and punting. Yeah, it's three sides of the ball. Kicker Myers, punter Dixon. And then this genuinely, after seeing what happened to Bobo, worries me. That punt returner you've got there is Torrey Horton and Jake Bobo. Kick returner George Halani, which I can get on board with, and Derek Young. Fine, two bigger units. I'm happy if they'll be able to ride out a knock. But Horton and Bobo with his concussion, and Horton, I'm not sure how I feel about him being hit by a gunner.
I'll look at it this way. I think the Courtney Jackson signing is going to be very interesting to see what happens week one. I think that he's going to be an elevation guy, and they're going to see what they got in him as a kick returner before they go and resort to Torrey Horton and George Halani. But the thing I'll say about this is, who was if you really want to go back, our last really effective punt returner / kick returner was Leon Washington. Really was the last real one. Maybe Tyler for a little bit before he broke his leg.
His rookie season.
Consistency, his rookie season. Outside of that, you got to go back to Nate Burleson. And then, to be honest, I never want to see a guy named Williams return a punt unless you've brought Jimmy Williams back. Jimmy Williams was the last punt returner with Williams as his last name that was able to hang on to punts. Rest in peace for Jimmy Williams. But that's where I look at it and I go, like, Brian Walters was an effective punt returner because he just fair caught the ball and we didn't have to worry. It was secured. It was there. Okay, we're good. Like, this whole thing about having to try and get a game changer back there. It's like, just get a guy that can catch the ball, secure it. He's not going to do something dumb. Put your offense out there and let them play.
I couldn't agree more. And I understand everyone wants to see these big plays. I mean, you look at people look at highlights of like Devin Hester and go, that's what a kick return should be. That's not the way the game's played anymore. And Percy Harvin in the Super Bowl, that's what people expect to see. And in reality, that is not how it goes. People are employed specifically on special teams to be gunners and to take that man down. If you've got someone who can break off 20, 30 yards, amazing, but it doesn't happen very often. With that, gentlemen, one of my favorite parts of these. Oh, in fact, should we do the practice squad quickly? Because
we should.
Sure.
We probably should. Yeah, as we've spoken enough about them. So
I'd argue they're more. I'd argue they're more people than the special teamers as well.
Do you know what I really like about this practice squad? I mean, when you go down the list, you've got people that have been on this roster, people that we held in high regard during training camp, people that we've drafted. We've got the international player pathway there, and Federico Merengues. Jamie Sheriff's come back. It's kind of a stacked practice squad with people with a lot of potential. You know, Mitch, you didn't stop singing the praises of Jacardier right throughout the preseason, and I can see why. Like I said, he was priority.
Phenomenal.
One thing that gets me, Satawa Lamea, a man who was starting games last year. And go on, Bryce, what were you going to say?
I'm shocked he's on the practice squad. He was horrible when I saw him live at practice and when I saw him at the Fan Fest and then watching him through preseason on the All-22. You talk about earlier Bryce capable to be turnstile. So Satawa Lamea was basically a door frame without a door. That's what he was. I hate to say it, but he was a door frame without a door in it. Like you could go right through him and it was like nothing was there. And yes, he can run block, but even that he struggled in. But that's what I'll say about Satawa Lamea.
It's, you know, throughout the off season, he was training with Abe Lucas as well. And I think the view to that was if I can train like Abe with Abe, I'll form that camaraderie, which means if they put me next to him in that O-line, we should be a step ahead of people. But he took a backward step more than anything. Every snap I saw of him, whenever he had like a D tackle running towards him, my bum squeaked and I was just like, this isn't going to go well for him. You can tell by his stance, you can tell by his body position, he's not going to be able to get under anyone or stop anyone. It was just, yeah, I don't know what happened there. And then you've got the likes of Damian Martinez, who I don't think anyone would have seen him in the 53-man roster based on preseason. The only people that did, who saw him at Miami last year and said he deserves to be on an NFL roster. But by God, no way after that preseason.
The thing for me go ahead, man.
I'm just going to add in a very, very quick thing. I think one thing that's really interesting about this practice squad is I think it's got 6 players that were drafted on it. This isn't a list of UDFAs that were lucky to make it through camp. There's 6 draft picks invested in this squad, and it doesn't have Griffin on it, which makes that another one. I mean, I know that's not from this season, but you go through that. White was drafted. Jerick Reed was a draft pick. Yeah. Damian Martinez was a draft pick. Lamea was a draft pick. Griffin was a draft pick. Gene Charles was a draft pick at one point, and so was Bohanna. There's plenty of players in there that at some point scouting teams have thought that they are worth a draft pick, yet they are currently on our 16 for as a developmental squad. That's crazy to me. That's a talented group.
Yeah, it's a very talented group. You know, I was happy to see Jerick Reed get back through. There's, I think Gaines is no longer on this list.
No, he's gone.
Yeah, and I'm not sure about Amari Kite. I thought he might be off the list too. Having, the guys that we have added to take some of those spots, I think is key. The one that I was so happy snuck through, because I think he might actually be more of a factor next year for Seattle, is Tyrone Broden at the receiver spot.
Yeah.
He showed some really cool things. He's someone that I'm kind of, excited. Ricky White, I'm excited on too as well. Like him getting another ability to go through and continue to grow, because I think there's potential there. I just think he's not up to where, coming out of UNLV, it was great when he played in an air raid scheme and could throw the ball all over the yard. But when you're forced to block and do some of those things, like that's where I think our perception as Seahawks fans, as Seahawks content creators, and people that watch this team very, very in-depthly, is we've evaluated a lot of these positions in the past to what they're going to be now going forward as drastically shifted. And, you talk about the safety spot, you talk about the receiver spot, you talk about the inside linebacker spot, what we had come accustomed to for over a decade plus of how these are the guys they're looking for and this is how they fit. I think one thing we've seen from last offseason and draft to this offseason and draft is the massive shift of Mike McDonald and this coaching staff changing that perspective of what they want and what they view as a Seahawk compared to what we were so accustomed to with Pete and John.
Yeah, love that. So that's a great way of saying it. Just very quickly as well, for anyone in the chat that is saying that that's completely wrong, blame the Seahawks media team, because that was lifted directly from the internet 10 minutes before we got online. And just a quick one, where is it? Hawk Skull, Tyus, Gaines, and Campbell are off that list. Yeah, I said I think that it's a list of players that has got so much potential to keep on board and keep in the system. So next year they're fighting for a roster spot. It means that when we know we've got those players in the practice squad, when it comes to drafting or trying to sign free agents, Mike McDonald may be able to turn around with his coaching team and go, we don't need anyone. We have got players in waiting that we've been coaching up for the last year. And Bryce, you'll know as well as me as a coach, players don't click in the first year. Some players don't click in the second year. We're talking about Anthony Bradford. And it's taken him 3 years to finally figure out how to play guard. So some of these players in the practice squad, whilst there was a comment about Broden not being able to catch, they'll be working on that. Whilst there's going to be comments about people not being able to tackle or pass rush, or their biometrics, everything may be slightly off. They may have too much weight on them and need to put too much more muscle on. That's what they work with for the whole year now. And that's them ready and waiting. Right. My personal favorite, something that Mitch and I started doing this year on our podcast, it's the winners and losers. And so for anyone who doesn't know about this, we pick 3 winners and a loser each. So usually it's 3 winners between me, Mitch, and a guest. But as we have Bryce on, I'm going to allow Bryce to have the limelight. I will add a comment or sit here nodding with this. So 3 winners, 1 loser, and we'll give a special mention if you've got one. But Bryce, who is your first winner from this 53-man roster?
Tyreek Young is my first winner. He proved this preseason, so a couple things to me. He, I think, will have actually explosive receiving production in this offense for what he is going to bring to it when he is on the field. He has background. We've known that for the last few years. He's a great gunner. He does justice to number 83 with what Ricardo Lockett used to do. He's very similar in that skill set. But you look at what, he led the team with 4 catches for 83 yards. That was 3 catches for 52 in the Kansas City game, which, you saw him hit those deep digs. And he also turned some short passes into big games. He had the 24-yard pickup on the 1st and 20 in that first down conversion. He showed a lot of those abilities in the Green Bay game and the Kansas City game for sure. The biggest thing for me with his route running improved. He was actually getting in and out of breaks properly. And he's a bigger guy. We're not talking about a small receiver, right? We're talking about a guy that probably is the most physically imposing out of the group now, I would say, now that DK's gone. And again, his blocking. You watched him in the run game, the amount of times when they'd bounce outside on these wide zone plays, there's Tyreek Young taking on a half, taking on a linebacker and, actually sustaining the block. So I think his emergence in this new room led to the MVS getting cut because they went, okay, we can't put Tyreek Young into waivers. Someone will pick him up for his special teams, for his big play production, potentially with deep shots down the field. We need to keep him because outside of Torrey Horton, he's a guy that can play that X spot that everyone wants to talk about, needing a big receiver. Well, there's your guy for it if you need to put him in for certain packages.
Yeah, I love a bit of Tyreek Young. We've said since we started last year that he is like DK Metcalf 2.0 of Wish. Big body receiver. He is rocked up. He just hasn't had the chance, or he's made some silly errors, let's face it, what should be rookie errors, but that's because he doesn't get a lot of game time. I think, again, because he has floated on the roster and had that time to practice, and now he's in a system that can use someone with that frame, perfect opportunity for him to shine.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think it's his time.
Mitch, who's your first one? First winner?
I've got George Halani as my first real winner here. I've got a few notes, but I basically put he's made the 53 on merit. I know you might look at injuries, Kenny McIntosh being the obvious one, opening up a running back 3 spot. But actually, if Kenny Mack had been fit, the performances that Halani put out there probably got him the spot regardless. So he's made the roster on merit. He played well in all the games he played. He didn't really get any snaps at all, did he, in the 3rd game? So I think he'd already convinced the coaches that he was running back 3 before the team marched out on the field in the 3rd game. And I've put here, arguably, he could and should have made the roster last year. So he's hung around and waited patiently, fulfilled, a spot on the practice squad, and now he's got his chance. That for me is one of the biggest winners this offseason on this roster. And also every opportunity he's ever had to pull on the jersey and go out there and play, he has shown quality and consistency and shown that he can do it. So big win for Helani for me.
I just saw someone put in the that I thought was really interesting. It'd be cool if Young could be like our Jawan Jennings.
Oh,
yeah.
That is a really good comp. That is a really good comp.
Give him one or two games where he just absolutely blows teams away because they're not expecting it. Yep. That would be
secret
chef's
weapon.
kiss. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's perfect. I mean, we saw him take snaps as a sort of pseudo fullback as well, didn't we? So he's that movable chess piece that they can have because of his size, his strength, his speed. You can have him running jet sweeps effectively. You could have him lining up as a fullback. You could have him doing whatever you wanted. And it's then up for the defense to guess how we're going to utilize him. And I think that's kind of what Kubiak's looking for with this. We said about the tight ends and the fullbacks. It's, are they blocking? Are they now a receiving threat? Who goes where? And I can't wait for a 2 running back set.
I'm going to say one more thing to Mitch's point on George Helani, and this is going to be a hot take. I think George Helani's preseason and what impact he has this regular season might make it even easier for K9 to be expendable next offseason.
Mitch. I literally just saw that comment.
Yeah, it was perfect timing. Yeah, I think the injury record adds to your point. That's another angle. Like the same thing might be true if there's an injury there. He could well be playing running back too.
Yeah, 100%. Right. Come on, Bryce, give us your second winner.
So my second winner is Ty Okada, the safety. To me, the thing I noticed about what they did, and Mike McDonald loves Ty Okada very much to the point of how he loved Kobe Bryant last year. The thing with Okada for me was his run support and physicality got better. That was one thing for me where I was very kind of skeptical on him. Like he made sense if he was asked to play more of the deep of the field, but can he come down and actually help? Because in this Mike McDonald defense, there's not really a true free versus a true strong. They're kind of just two high safeties that rotate. He showed a physical presence in the box this preseason and made some great run support tackles and filling gaps and run lanes. In the Green Bay game alone, he finished with 4 tackles, which he did play a lot, but a lot of them were solid run stops. Like he came up and actually stopped the run. The other thing for me that I thought was interesting was you saw more of his deep range as a safety come into play, especially on that interception. That wasn't something I think a lot of people realized Ty Okada could do, but he was very good at in college, was that deep ranging safety. So, he ability to play the ball came up. He had a couple really nice pass breakups throughout. He actually, I think, really did a good job of cementing himself and clearly made it to the point where D'Anthony Bell, now who they've released, was expendable out of the initial 5 safeties. Everyone was so high on D'Anthony Bell, and not to say D'Anthony well, but we had to take into consideration Ty Okada had been in the system from last year. He knew what the system was and could play, I think, a little bit faster in some respects than D'Anthony Bell could. And we saw that with Ty Okada and certain things. And the other thing was interesting was watching him back there calling out the communication points of the defense throughout. He really took ownership of that second team, third team group and really kind of ran the show in the back end. And I think that's, another guy that I think is going to bring some, in his special teams ability too, right? He's one of the better special teams players on the team. So I think that's where you see the value of Ty Okada. He can come in and play in for a Kobe Bryant. I don't think there'd be a little bit of a drop off for sure, but it saves you having to play Nick Emenwari as a deep safety, and you can keep him in the box where he's comfortable, let him get accustomed to the NFL, and let Okada come in and play next to a Julian Love or vice versa for a game, and you're not going to see a massive drop-off in the back end.
I have been a Ty Okada homer for the past couple of seasons. And obviously you and I, Bryce, we had a coach talk pod that we did, sort of a little impromptu one, talking about sort of sports coaching, as a rugby coach to a football coach. And for me in rugby, I specialize in defense, sort of the tackling, the the technicality of the tackle. And Ty Okada, what really gets me is technically he is so sound as a tackler. It's very rare I'll watch how he tackles and go, oh God, that's concussion waiting to happen. That's a spinal injury. That's just a swinging arm tackle that someone's going to break through. The way he manages to set his body low and project himself through people, they're not going to get through that. And that's one thing that I love. It's the physicality and the violence, but also the intelligence in order to pick these runs up. And like you said, where he's barking orders at the second team defense, sort of knowing how things are going, that is the makings for me of someone who is going to end up on this roster consistently for the next couple of years, and he won't cost the earth either. Love Ty Carter.
Love that one.
As Mitch knows.
No, I know I've heard it before, but he showed a lot of what you've loved about his game this year, but a lot quicker. You know, it was at a speed that he could really showcase himself. I think it seems like the game slowed down for him. So yeah, now's his time, and he's on the roster. So happy days. Big winner.
Well, Mitch, winner number 2.
Winner number 2, Torrey Horton. Low hanging fruit, this one. But I've put here, you know, he's not only now proven his fitness following the LCL injury that he had last year, he's proven versatility, because when he came into the first game against the Raiders, he was playing the role that we can expect to see JSN and Cooper Kupp playing. That's not really the role that we're going to see him playing, but it was the best game he played. So he's proven his fitness. He's now shown his versatility, covering what the wide receiver 1 and 2 do. So if we had an injury there, he could slot in there. Tariq Young can then go in and play the X. Arroyo can play the X. So yeah, fitness, versatility, clearly there. He showed he could be a really good field stretcher during camp. I've put here that the question marks now are about the level of quality this year that he can provide, how consistently he can provide it, and what his ceiling looks like in this league. Is he a perpetual wide receiver 3 that never really transcends to 2 or 1? Or has he got more in the locker? Like, will he get opportunities to show that throughout the season? So the questions are no longer about the role he's going to play and how fit he is. They're more just how good can he be, for me.
Yeah.
Big winner.
100%. I like it. No notes for me. Just excited to see how it develops. So we're on to the last winners. Bryce, who is your third and final winner?
I feel like I took this and really did like the guys on the back end, and Mitch took the guys that are like everyone wants
low
to
hanging
discuss.
fruit. I'm just fine.
I know you literally grabbed
Full
like that
spectrum.
fruit wasn't even low hanging. It literally fell in your hand, man. Like, come on. Okay, so my third and final winner is Connor O'Toole. I was very high on him coming into obviously UDFA and them signing him. We're talking about a guy that switched after his first year at Utah as a redshirt from receiver to D end, and I get the massive production wasn't there. Like, he wasn't toting 10 sack seasons or anything, but you saw his pass rush disruption in the Raiders game. So, he had 3 QB hits, a tackle for a loss, 4 pressures. If that's what you're getting from an outside edge rotational player, that's exceptional. That's going to help influence the rest of the defense. And sometimes we think, sacks are the main kind of important stat for a rusher, and they're important. But the pressures and the QB hits, those are things that start to weigh on a QB throughout a game when it's the same guy or a different guy and he's getting constantly. You start to speed your clock up and you want to get rid of that ball sooner. And sometimes the windows aren't there, and that's where interceptions and stuff become, a big part. Like, he had a team high 6 plays like that off PFF in 24 snaps. That's a good set of production from game 1 as a rookie. His athletic profile, though, he's 248. He's 6'3", 6'4". So that gives you a little bit more of a lean bend. He's fast. He's explosive. His college transition, like from when going from receiver to tight end, he had, 104 tackles and 2.5 sacks in 2024. Like, that's production as an outside linebacker D end, right? And then, the other part is he's a UDFA. So you look at, from the sense of special teams, he will do anything to be on the roster, and you can put him anywhere. He's not going to be one of those guys that's like, well, I'm only going to be a DN because you drafted me in the 5th round. He's the type of guy that's going to be like, hey, we need you to hop on and cover a punt. Cool, I'm going and I'm gone. And he gives you that flexibility. So for me, him being on here, like he went from a long shot, I think, in some people's eyes to people even, Jared Ivey took a lot of that spotlight. And I think Connor O'Toole was able to kind of fly underneath it. And then when he did do things, people were like, oh, well, who's that guy? Who's 57 out there? Well, that's Connor O'Toole. And I think, I think Mike McDonald might have some cool ways to develop him and use him in the future.
Making Mitch very happy because he shouted him out on our pod a few weeks ago. And in the Discord, he's now called Mitch's boy, Connor O'Toole. So go on, Mitch. Who's your third and final? We've got some winners coming in on the chat as well, so we'll get to those just before we go to the losers. But go on, Mitch. Who's your third and final winner?
I'm going to call Bryce's bluff here, and considering all of my winners have been obvious and low hanging fruit, who do you think is my third winner, Bryce? Who is the most obvious person for me to pick here? What do you think?
Oh, I think it's gonna be an O lineman, I think, obviously. And I think it's gonna be Jalen Sundell.
It's Jalen Sundell.
Oh, would you look at that?
I knew you'd get it. Yeah, so you've absolutely proven yourself correct that I am just plucking the easy wins here. My notes just say he had a fortunate situation with Olu's health. He got really good exposure, was exceptionally good in the preseason games and camp. However, his performance have been impressive, consistently, and the familiarity with Gray Zabel alongside him is only going to help him going forward. That the coaches are leaning into that, and that's so good. I love that you've been able to call that dude. That's so good.
The hive mind strikes.
The hive mind strikes. Yeah, but yeah, no, I've been really impressed. I think Olu really started to kick on last year, and it looked like that job was going to be his to lose. Well, it turns out that availability is the best of ability, and Jalen Sundell had that and showed out. So, yeah, big winner from this camp, Jalen Sundell.
It's really funny because me and Dan Vians can, comment on this too at some point, but me and him were sitting at FanFest last year and both looked at each other and went, that dude might be our answer at center. And he'd only been there for a week at that point. Sundell stood out that much last year. And then you saw him what he did in the Green Bay game when Olu got hurt. Like he was the one leading Charbonnet down the sideline. And I kept saying to Dan, I said, they get the right scheme here to run the ball and they go to a zone and they lean into that. Sundell might be the ideal center for it because of his athletic ability. And you saw that. And I encourage everyone, if you have access to it, if you watch George Halani's run against the Chiefs, I believe it was the second drive after Sam Darnold took the team down the field and Drew Lock's in, and it was this 30-yard run down the sideline. If you watch the block Jalen Sundell makes on the reach on the 3-tack, it is teaching tape. He is literally the key block there outside of Zabel and Jones pushing the line. If he doesn't get that block, and he has to reach to get it because the 3-tech is lined to his left side, it was an unbelievable display of athleticism and understanding the scheme and getting there. That to me was one of the best blocks all preseason, and probably one of the best run plays was just that sole piece of it. And that's what I think he gives you more than Olu, where, a lot of people have said, well, Olu's such a smart center. I don't think that's a fair thing. Jalen Sundell is a very intelligent center as well. I think Jalen Sundell just gives you higher athleticism, and in a wide zone scheme that you want to run, that's what might stick out a little bit. And I don't know if Olu's done. I think Olu, there's a chance if, again, like we said, we kind of may have said off air is, what happens if, or we said prior to that, I think on the offensive part, if we lose a guard, Sundell might be bumping to guard B and they move Olu back in. Like that's kind of where it's at. But as long as everyone stays healthy, I think Jalen Sundell is going to be a very good center this year. And yes, I will always call your bluff, Mitch.
Good. Expect nothing else.
It. So just before we get to the viewers' comments, I'm very conscious of the time. Not that it bothers me. I'm more than happy to stay here as long as possible. And we get to viewers' comments and the losers. So if you are new to seeing us on our channel, so we're the UK Seahawks official podcast. We also support a UK-based germ cell cancer charity called the Robin Cancer Trust. You can see their badges up here. These guys do fantastic work. You can have a t-shirt just like Mitch. And it's all for testicular and ovarian cancer. We're helping them raise awareness worldwide where we can. So this man, if you've not seen it before, this is Toby. Toby is the CEO or I don't know what his title is now, but he is running to raise £240,000 dressed as a giant ball bag. He's currently run 663 kilometers all throughout the UK, various marathons. He ran Hadrian's Wall, which is the width of England, just before you get to Scotland. An absolute legend of a guy. So we just want to shout them out on every single pod. And if you do want to help them at all, by all means, you can nip to their shop. You can get a t-shirt just like Mitch's. It comes in various other colours as well. And they have a podcast for anyone who has been affected by testicular and ovarian cancer, a podcast called Thrive Against Cancer that you can tune into as well. And with that, let's go to some viewer comments. So John McGrath, he's given us a couple of winners, and then we'll get on to the losers, because I don't want to sort of go down and up. So John, his winner in the 53 has to be Bradford, because no one thought he'd be the starter at right guard last year. Major props to that young man for taking the step, 1,000%.
And the dedication to his change of makeup as well. It was not a natural change for him to become more top heavy, and that athleticism he's gained. He has redesigned himself physically and embraced the coaching. That is serious dedication.
Yeah. We've got another one from Herbicide, which just says, Oots.
Every pod, we need one.
That man is going to be a fan favorite. I've already said I do not buy player jerseys, active player jerseys. I can't do, because I've been burned too many times by buying one, then they get traded away. However, I am very, very tempted to buy a Robbie Utes jersey, because I think he is going to become a cult hero in Seattle.
Agree.
And I want to hear, either on the TV or when me and Mitch eventually get over there, just the cries of Oots every time he gets the ball. John's come back in with the second winner would be Mike Morris, even though I think Mills will push him out of the starting rotation as soon as he gets cleared to play. Now, on this pod, here's another one. It's Mitch's boy, Mike Morris, because he called that draft pick before it happened. But I think we're all in agreement. That is the general consensus. They love Riley Mills, and he has been champing at the bit to get back in. He may be left out for the whole season just to get him completely fit. But I think when that happens, Mike Morris will unfortunately not be on this 53. And they were the main ones. So, guys, let's get to your losers before we can get to our Discord member musings and some of the questions and comments from the chat.
All right. So my loser, Satawa Lamea. So I took, low-hanging fruit on this one, Mitch, if we want to really talk there about it. But you're talking about a guy that finished the year as the starting right guard. He beat out Christian Haynes. He really regressed. And to the point, like I said earlier in the show, he was basically a door frame without a door on pass protection. Like even his run blocking declined. He usually in the gap power scheme, his run grade last year was a 52, which wasn't bad, but it was above average. It was good. But he slowly started to lose reps. Like I think a big sign for everybody on Lamea was who got injured in the Chiefs game. He had to go off, and they took him and they got him looked at. The minute Cabledew could come back in, they put him back in and took Lamea out, which is a sign from a coaching staff that, like, yeah, you're not really a high priority. I'd rather see this guy play than you. And I think the scheme, fit was a problem for Lamea. I don't think he fits that zone wide scheme. He fit more, and you saw it in the Arizona game last year when they went more gap power. He took over. He likes to pull, and he likes to get in the meat and the things in there. The wide zone scheme, you have to be really good at understanding double teams and really understand how to getting off of those and get to that next level and that cutoff point. And I think that was a factor. I also think the competition, like Cabledew, Richmond, those are guys that played a lot of college snaps at big programs like Mason Richmond. And this is one point, to what you said earlier there, Josh, about him being able to play all those different positions and such. He was a 4-year starter at Iowa. All Iowa does is produce good, capable NFL-level offensive linemen. That's a lot more competition for Lamea than what he had to deal with last year. And you think about the way that Christian Haynes, again, fell out of competition this year with his injury. But I think Haynes was losing reps regardless to Richmond and Cabledew. So now you look at the two guys that you'd had as your guards last year were basically subjugated to being third and fourth stringers. Lamea's got to be one of the biggest losers this year. And to make the practice squad, like I said, I was shocked he still made it through to there.
Is it a matter of, with Lemaya, do they go, look, we drafted you, we can still try and develop you? You know, I think the Haynes experiment, I think obviously they drafted him high. They're going to keep him on the roster anyway, because if they put him onto practice squad, the likelihood is someone may come and get him. Someone could still. But I think it's very much they look at him and go, look, this is a scheme that you're familiar with from college. You know, when he was at UConn, and he just isn't up to starting at the moment. So maybe a matter of let's keep you this 53. Let's train you up and see if we can get you to the standard that we want.
I heard Dan Vienz's interview with Brady Henderson, and Brady Henderson said something really interesting on it, that he thinks that they may look at Haynes as like they may be willing to trade him and like kind of just move off of it. That Haynes is kind of almost he just doesn't fit, like the Anthony Bradford thing. Like it looks more like they were trying to light a fire under Anthony Bradford's butt than they were trying to get Christian.
Well
Haynes.
censored.
Yeah, I had to change that slightly. Apologies. But it looked like that's what they were trying to do with Anthony Bradford, was get him going, because listen to John Schneider talk about Anthony Bradford in the offseason and Mike McDonald. There was very little about Christian Haynes. Mm-hmm. And, to your point, Josh, the scheme's supposed to fit him and all these kind of things. I think when John Benton came in here and Kubiak and that, and they looked at him, they went, he doesn't have an anchor. So, yeah, he may in college, it may work. And again, this is the big thing in the NFL. The one thing Anthony Bradford had, he has an anchor. Like Anthony Bradford can stand stout and take a guy on.
It's a big boy people mover.
Exactly. And when you don't have that at the NFL level, it gets a lot more challenging. At college, you can get away with it. Sometimes you're lining up one week to the next, playing against a kid that's 19 versus a kid that's 22. You can do that and take advantage of those things. The NFL, you don't get that opportunity because everyone's at that same level.
Yeah, grown man strength all over the place at the NFL level. You've got to be able to hold your ground. Completely agree. Well, if that was low hanging fruit, this is fruit that's already hit the deck and a dog's peed on it. So this is Marquez Valdes-Scantling for me as the biggest loser in camp, and I'll tell you why.
We don't discriminate on winners and losers. It doesn't have to be on our roster.
No. Well, no. I mean, he's the biggest loser here for me from the whole of the offseason, in my opinion, because he didn't really get to see the field, and he lost his job to the people that got the opportunities to play. He was almost there as an idea of, if no one else manages to steal the spot on the roster, we've got someone who knows the scheme. Thank you. Yeah, MVS, the lowest of fruit. Like I say, dogs are peed on it. There's a worm in it. It's half rotted. Low fruit. You're not putting it in anything. You're not going to chomp on it. It's
compost worthy, Mitch, is what you're saying right now.
Compost. It's already
essentially
compost.
Is compost. Yeah.
It's that rotten. It's already on the 49ers roster. I just. I'm not wrong, man.
No, you're not.
No, but the thing is with MVS, like I say, he barely got the opportunity to make his case. The room around him had so much more upside and got so much more opportunity that it became very obvious that paying the guy and giving him snaps at the cost of your guys that were younger, that had the talent, that had been drafted, that had been coached here, they were the ones they wanted to continue to put time and effort and money into. MVS lost his job without ever turning up for a day's work.
I love this comment from Jason. MVS gets 2 contracts in like 6 months. He's easily a winner. Financially.
I mean, if he wants to play some football, maybe not. Yeah, no, but yeah, you're quite right.
So,
financially, he's one.
The thing for me with MVS is he was, to me, what John Schneider's always kind of talked about with free agency at points, especially earlier. We need to hedge against the draft. He was a hedge that they weren't going to get any receivers that they were high on in the draft. So, hey, we've got this guy. And you listen to MVS's comments. He did an interview and he was like, I was shocked I got cut, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, dude, if you'd seen the writing on the wall in the Packers game where you were playing that much with the 3rd and 4th string guys and you're out there with a rookie quarterback, pretty good sign you're probably not making this roster unless you do something to really wow them, because you don't block well. Like, MVS is not known for his blocking. He's not going to contribute on specials. And it goes back to a comment Mike McDonald made in one of his press conferences, I think either before the Chiefs game or just after. And it's about the receiver group and like, how are you going to determine between 5 or 6 receivers? And he goes, one thing with our receivers that are on the back end and not in our top 3, you're going to have to be able to contribute on special teams. Well, Derek Young sure can. Jake Bobo sure can. Horton can as a returner. Cody White can. That's another guy. You know, I didn't mention him. He'd be my honorable mention for winners is Cody White finally getting to the 53.
Yeah, I mean, Mookie's making similar points here. He said he also wants to amend his camp winners. Derek Young, Cody White were under real pressure to make this roster, and White made it to the roster for the first time. We all saw that lovely X post from Cody White about being able to finally call his mother and tell him he made an NFL roster.
Yep.
That was lovely. It was a really heartwarming thing to see. And how many times have we seen Cody White turn up in preseason and show us something? It's been a really talented wide receiver room that's been very highly paid in recent years. This was the first opportunity to really, make a name for himself, and he took it with both hands.
Whilst Mookie's in the chat, hi Mookie, managing editor of Field Goals and also co-host of the Seahawks Syndicate with Bryce, Brandon, Kane, Dan Viennes, and obviously Mookie. So Mookie said, I watch these things, mate. I subscribe to them all, which means people here should be subscribing to us as well. That's a tip for tat. So Mookie has put his 3 winners. Halani, Sundell, Jared Ivey. No one's mentioned Jared Ivey, but my word, what a winner throughout camp and this preseason. I am expecting big things from him. And like we said earlier, the coaching staff love him. And then Mookie's losers. Oh, Mitch, go on.
I was just going to say, Jared Ivey is walking proof that you can turn up to the combine in a pair of concrete shoes and still make a roster.
Yeah. And then Mookie's losers, Haynes, trade deadline watch at this point. Martinez, way less powerful than he thought, and MVS went from wide receiver 2 when he was signed to off the team. Yeah, 100%. So with that, that's our winners and losers. A lot of talk about my boy Kenny McIntosh in the chat as well, and I feel all of your pain. He's one of my favourites. I think he's massively underutilized and would be the RB3 here. So before we get to our Discord member musings, which is something we like to do for all the members of the Discord, we are at the 12 Talk Podcast, the UK Seahawks official podcast. If you'd like to become a UK Seahawk, you can do it from anywhere in the world. It's £12 for individual membership, £20 for a family of 4 up to, in one address, £5 extra postage per member outside of the UK. You get access to game day field passes, 10% off at the pro shop. You get social events if you want to come over to the UK. There's also an annual selection of goodies and patches. And Mitch, guess what they're displayed on? Your box. Mitch's box. This year we got 21. It's internet famous now, mate. 21-year anniversary patch. We've got coasters, we've got our customary wristband, and you get your membership card as well. And you can join these and many more. This was the last gathering we had in Glasgow. Happy faces, great time, and then we'll just wait to hear where the next one is, and then we will be there in full force. But as we have our Discord channel, as we have a growing number of members in there, and you too can join, Mitch will pop the link in the comments, and it's also in the description down below. We'd like to do our Discord member musings. And these are members of our Discord that have some questions. And we've got all your questions, but because these guys are with us day in, day out, we'd like to give them a bit of a spotlight. Gary, there's a lot of chat saying the 49ers game will define the Seahawks season. Do you agree? Personally, I see it more as defining the 49ers season, not the Seahawks. Bryce, what are your thoughts?
I think it does define the Seahawks season. They have to get over the hump at home. They have to do, we're talking about a bunch of things in this game. You're talking about the team that's really bullied you the most for the last few years. Let's be honest, prior to Mike McDonald and winning in Santa Clara, it was almost chalk up 2 losses to the Niners because we were, unless they had a really bad year with injuries, we weren't beating them at their peak. You're talking about trying to get home field advantage back and getting a legitimate home record that favors you, which is something that hasn't been for this team for a while. And if you don't come out and in a game where it's week 1, you're at home, ticket prices are insane. I was looking at going at the game. The conversion rate for me for 2 tickets is going to be almost $850 to go to the game, which means it seems like there's a lot of Seahawk fans that are keeping their tickets because there isn't a massive amount of them. I think this game is massive because you're talking about, does the Sam Darnold, work, the whole acquisition of that. You're going to have to deal with that. If it fails out of the gate, fans are going to jump on it. There's a whole bunch of things that got this game kind of weighing in this pendulum, that if it doesn't go right, there's going to be this drop of everything doesn't work and Seahawks panic. And if they do win, it could do the other, which is catapult this team a little bit. If the Seahawks are able to get over the Niners in week 1 and set a kind of tone going for the rest of it, they don't play them again till week 18 at the end of the year.
Yep.
You don't want to have
Bryce
to go into that week 18 game at the end of the year going, man, we have Santa Clara. And if somehow they end up playing well, yeah. That's just kind of how I look at it.
Agreed. I think this is it's a chance for them to stamp some superiority onto the NFC West now. And let's face it, the Niners are beat up. They've lost some key players, all throughout that roster. And if we can go in there, put our foot to the throat and really win that game, it could be season defining. We did have a comment from Jonas about that, which I was trying to find, but we'll get to that one shortly. Jonas with us. The first one, after the initial roster cuts, the depth at linebacker concerned me the most, but getting Paul from the Rams seems to be a steal, especially how furious the LA's fan base was about the cut. Do you think he can be more than a depth piece, especially with Knight's status still questionable?
Mitch, do you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to say too much, but I think Paul was someone that they were really high on. I'm not sure why they tried to smuggle him onto a practice squad. One man's trash is another man's treasure, and I genuinely think this is a player that could make our roster for years to come. It's a position we needed bodies in, and that has fallen into our lap. So I think he can be a real contributor in a lot of packages. We've got room on the depth chart for it, and I think he'll play some special teams for us as well. He's a highly athletic linebacker. I think he's going to make an impact.
I think this is going to be really interesting to see what happens with Drake Thomas, and I love Drake Thomas, but Surratt coming onto this, if he can pick up everything, and you heard Mike McDonald kind of talk about Paul. I know they were high on him in the draft process and really liked him. I think he could push Knight. If Knight doesn't take a step this year, not that Knight played bad last year, but Knight has to take a step, there could be a chance where it could be, next year, if Knight's not hitting things the way he should as a partner with Ernest Jones, it could be Jones and Paul in there as the two linebackers with Surratt and Knight as special teams guys. That change could happen. So it'll be very interesting to see how this all kind of shapes up, because the one thing is now with Mike McDonald, he is the linebacker whisperer. So if he identifies guys that he wants, and you listen to what he said about Surratt and Paul, those are two guys he's definitely ID'd as guys he really likes and is happy that they're here.
Agree.
So, Rich, I listened to the Locked On Seahawks podcast where they had the NFC West season prediction. The other three beat writers from the NFC had Seahawks to finish bottom. Why is the perception outside of our bubble like that? Go on, Bryce.
Well, massive overturn. You lost a Pro Bowl-ish level quarterback in Geno Smith. You lost a Pro Bowl-ish receiver in DK Metcalf. You lost a iconic player in Tyler Lockett. You went massive change. You're bringing in a whole new offensive scheme. You fired an entire offensive staff outside of I think 3 people in Jake Peets, Polamalu, and I can't remember the other receiver coach that stayed on. And you brought in a whole new regime, absolutely whole new offensive regime. There's a lot of turnover, and I think that's where you're seeing it. It's not necessarily about the defense, but it's about this offensive turnover, and in key spots that's really driving this narrative. I think with a lot of beat writers and national reporters being like, well, we'll give Seattle a year and a mulligan to get everything kind of sorted before they really come into it. And I'm of the perception this offense isn't that hard to learn. And the guys that you brought in at the key spots, we're talking about Cooper Kupp and Sam Darnold, especially on offense, they have played in this system for years before. Like we're talking, Sam was a backup in San Francisco and played with it with O'Connell in Minnesota. Kupp's been in it his entire career with McVay. You're not bringing in guys that have never seen this before. And some of these guys that are here got a bit of a taste of it with Shane Waldron. So it's not like it's a completely foreign thing where Ryan Grubbs was a massively foreign.
It's foreign to everyone. Even Alabama, based on that.
Oh gosh, yeah. Oh man. But anyhow, we can discuss that at some point. That was a debacle yesterday. But that's where I think you're seeing that perception from the media right now is driving from those factors.
Yeah, nice. Jonas again. There we go. Tickets in the nosebleeds are up to $200 for week 1 against the Niners at Lumen. Nobody seems to be selling their tickets. So you think the 12s believe in the team Mike McDonald's created? And do we have the raucous feeling back at home?
I think
that's going to
so.
be interesting. Yeah, that's going to be really interesting just to see how that feels on day 1 of the season with belief. I think belief's coming back. I think there's a defense in Seattle that the fans really want to see and get behind again. That's a championship level defense. There's intrigue. We're starting with a key rival. We can set the tone for the season with a home win, but we can also do it against our biggest rivals. That will drive all kinds of demand for tickets, those factors. And I hope that then brings the noise, because that's what we're down for.
The preseason game versus the Chiefs, and you could hear a bit more of the noise. And I believe Amy Holmes even commented on that.
She commented on this in the Discord. Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to put it in there.
Oh, excellent. So she brought it up too. The thing that's really interesting to me, though, about the Seattle fan base, I think there's 2 things that the Seattle football fan base needs to get excited about their team. They need a defense that has a bit of a swagger and attitude to it. And this predates the LOB. Like, I'm talking about, you go back to like Cortez Kennedy when they had their 2-14 season. They had one of the best defenses in the NFL at a point, and they had Defensive Player of the Year. And you had Chuck Knox with the ground and pound offense, right? Kurt Warner, and then they'd smash the ball. Even when we were Super Bowl 05, you had Sean Alexander in that running game. And you need a good defense in Seattle and a run game. And people love that in Seattle. They love that physical mentality of football. That's been missing. And it's something that's starting to come back now with the way Mike McDonald coaches defense. And you can see these guys and the way they're playing. You look at the way Nick Warrior flies around and some of these pieces they've added. There's a bit of not an over excitement, I would say, but there is a growing excitement for the Seahawks team to finally I'm waiting for that big first pop from Nick Warrior in the 49ers game where he just decks George Kittle, decleats him, and George Kittle starts having, this is what Vernon Davis went through with Cam Chancellor moments. That's what I want in George Kittle's head. I want him to be thinking and having flashbacks of Vernon Davis and watching Vernon Davis get demolished by Cam Chancellor. I'm ready for that to be George Kittle's story now with Nick Warrior.
Yes, all of the yes. And then the last one from The Rude. Right. Do you have a set game day pre-game routine? Always wear the same kit, certain foods, certain drink during the game. My wife and some friends started a tradition of making rally shots when the Seahawks aren't doing well during the game. Usually tequila. I'm not a fan, but do partake for the greater good. The greater good, which was all the gifts that went into our Discord. That's Bryce. Let's start with you, obviously, because ours is going to be wildly different to yours because we're a few hours ahead.
Yeah, so for me, usually when games kick off here, they're 1:00. So I'm usually the wife does nachos, and she has a certain way of doing nachos that are phenomenal. And I will never eat anyone else's nachos unless my wife is the one making them, because there's just some secrets she has to it that are phenomenal. And she does real jalapeno poppers. So like cuts a jalapeno pepper, puts the cream cheese and wraps it in bacon, and then puts it in the air fryer and they're phenomenal. So that
my inner fat boy is screaming right now.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. But yeah, so then drink wise for me, I'm not really an alcoholic drink guy much. So for me, it's generally either an iced tea, and I mean the American style iced tea. I don't drink the sweet stuff that all the Canadians really like up here. I drink the stuff that's just literally black tea with some lemon in it, and that's it. Or a Sprite if I want something fizzy, or a bubbly water. But that's mainly it. I'm not going to be doing the rally shots too much.
Mitch, you got any?
I do like to create. If it's a late game, I have more. So sometimes we're up watching a game that starts at 1 a.m. here, and I know I'm in for the long haul, so I'll make sure I've got some proper snacks, and I'll usually make hot dogs with American mustard and fried onions or crispy onions, and get all that ready so I can, get to halftime and neck a very strong coffee and eat an enormous hot dog with everything on it. But that's not particularly regular. That's like once or twice a season, and the Super Bowl if I'm watching it. So
thank the Lord.
Thank the Lord for what? That it's not every week.
Yeah. Some of us have to work as well on Mondays. It's awful.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, we've got that lovely 3 o'clock kickoff against the Texans to look forward to on a Monday night.
Excellent.
I've booked the Tuesday off. Don't worry.
That's probably wise. I don't really have a routine. It's very much we have like dinner here or tea on a Sunday, and then I ride it through till whenever, depending on if I've booked the day off the next day. I might have a couple of beers, but I also have like matchsticks ready, or I'll have an energy drink like a Wraith.
Oh yeah,
nice plug. Right. There you go. See, because
well done.
We've also got code. Yeah.
I got one more thing to add for the food thing. So if it's a morning game in Seattle, my wife does tater tots, or I don't know what you guys are calling the little like potato things.
Tater tots, yeah.
With smoked salmon and poached egg with hollandaise sauce on top. That's my breakfast Seahawk thing, because the smoked salmon from the Pacific Northwest.
That's like a posh eggs Benedict. Or eggs
it's
Royale,
a very posh eggs Benedict.
Oh.
It is delicious. It makes me happy.
Should we start a side venture where we just talk food?
Dude, I'm game day foods.
That would be fantastic.
I'm all over that. I'm coming to your house, Bryce. That sounds amazing. If anyone else has got any, by all means, get in our Discord and let us know. We might start a food channel at this rate. Yannick, damn, I'm hungry now. So am I. But it's 9:30 in the evening here. So we've had. Thank you so much to everyone who's tuned in, commented. We've got there are so many comments. I'm not going to lie. If we don't read yours out, I apologize. But Mitch, do you want to pick some of the best of the ones you starred, and we can have a quick chat about them before we sign off?
Yeah, there's so many. Let's quickly revisit this, because I think we triggered quite a lot of response to our discussion about the edge rush rotation and how Chenna fits in. So let's pull up a couple of these. Herbicide said that he thinks D-Law and Chenna will be there on rundowns, Maffei and Hall on the passing downs. We've got Jason Tudor there as well, saying that Hall has more upside than Maffei from what he hears. I think that generally is the consensus. He's got to the level where Maffei got to with a year extra before extension. So there's a bit of intrigue there. Maybe Hall with Chenna, Maffei with D-Law to spread out the weakness. I think that's interesting. That leans less into the situation of the snap and more into just having a balanced blend. I don't know which way would go, but it's an interesting take. Maffei and Nwosu could both be gone after the season. I think that's likely. I think we could see a high pick this year used on an edge rush of round 1 or 2. So yeah, that was part of our edge rush interaction we had. Jonas, I don't think we've called out a Jonas comment yet, but he said he likes the starting O-line this year very much. But if there are any injuries, it starts to look a bit thin. I also think like we mentioned already, if there's an injury in that line, especially in the interior, there's a chance that Sundell moves and then Olu comes in, and then effectively one injury has caused 2 disruptions. That can be quite impactful. So I think that's a good shout. We've got a few more here. We're going back in time here, but back to the conversation about the uniforms. Yannick has said that he hoped for something else, but kind of likes what we've ended up with. The details on the helmet are really nice, but he's never been that high on Wolf Grey. I don't think Wolf Grey has been a popular colour for kits amongst the fans at all, really. Not as bad as the Action Green, but
novelty.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just having a little look. This is an interesting one. Oh, sorry. Do you want to do yours first?
I've got 2 at the end here. So
Okay.
Hawk Skull. Tater tots are called mini hash browns over here, when you can find them. Iceland and Sainsbury's. Thank you very much. I'll be going there. And Chris Rude has been suggesting a food Discord channel. So Mitch, get on that as a master of the Discord.
All right. As of tomorrow, it exists. We're gonna have people taking picture of their breakfast, lunch, and dinner and sharing it. And I'm here for it. And I'm going to contribute.
Just to make us hungry. Brilliant.
So I'm just going to put this one up because this educated me on this. I was not aware. You guys might be aware of this. But apparently the Football Association banned clubs from making dramatic changes more than once every 2 years. So perhaps there was a restriction in place there that meant that we had to pick Action Green, Wolf Grey, the navy colour, or the throwback colour for this jersey. And maybe the best fit was that Wolf Grey. So Interesting. Didn't know that.
Right. Well, I mean, I have thoroughly enjoyed this, Bryce. Thanks so
Yeah.
much for jumping on. It's
been good.
always great having you on. I mean, if you are watching, you can either subscribe to us or follow Bryce. There you go, Hawk's Eye Pod. You find him on YouTube. He's also on X at Seahawks Eye, and we love having you guys on. We'll have Bryce on a couple more times during the season because we chat pretty regularly, let's face it. But yeah, hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and by all means, if you are new to the channel or you're on Bryce's channel and you see us, jump in the Discord. Bryce is there as well, always adding some fantastic points that really make us look stupid when it comes to coaching and scheme. But I learn a lot, so I quite enjoy it. But yeah, the link is either down there in the comments, whatever side they are. I have no idea. But I just want to say again, thanks so much, Bryce. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in. It's been an absolute blast. Is there anything you'd like to end on, Bryce? Anything you got coming up?
Yeah, so I have an episode with Rob Staten that'll be dropping tonight, which was kind of a cool discussion. We even got into some early 2026 draft talk with Rob, which is always a fun thing to do. I have a show with Clinton Bonner from the Seahawkers that will drop on Tuesday. I have a season prediction show that will end coming out on Wednesday. And I have a live show Monday at 2:30, so tomorrow, with Mookie Alexander, our new bi-weekly show that's called State of the Seahawks. So me and Mookie every 2 weeks will get together, kind of do a rundown of what's going on with the team, and if there's a game coming up, obviously, there will be most times. We'll kind of do like a little bit of a preview from Mookie's perspective on what's going on with the team going into that game. So, yeah, that's basically kind of what I've got coming up right now.
Nice, well, I subscribe to your channel, and I basically watch and listen to all of them anyway. It's what gets me through the drives for work. So, again, a massive thanks to everyone else. Mitch, you started those for a reason.
I've got one big one to shout out here. I got to do this. John McGrath, you, sir, are a bit of me. Calamari is my thing. Dr. Pepper's my thing. Just give me all of that. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, 3-course meal, calamari. Hit me up with it. Give me.
Oh, and speaking of John did remind me to put in one other thing. Don't forget, at the end of every month, there is the
last Wednesday of every month.
The last Wednesday of every month is the Seahawks Syndicate with myself, Mookie Alexander, Brandon Kane of the Hawks Nest, and Dan Viens. And also, I'll give a little bit of a surprise. I'll be doing another once a month show at the beginning of every month on a Friday night. It'll be a live show with myself, Blaine Grisak, Blake Murphy, and Jason Apont, who all do SB Nation work for the Cardinals, 49ers, and Rams. We'll be doing an NFC roundtable show once a month to kind of get a check-in on the entire division as a whole. So it'll be another live show that's on the Hawks Eye as well.
Excellent. Leaning in hard to the constant content. I like it. And I said I'll be subscribing. Gets me through my days at work. So again, thanks so much to everyone for tuning in. You can find us on any of the links below. All of the links for Bryce's stuff are in the comments below, and where you can follow us is all down there as well. I've been Josh. That's been Mitch. That's also been Bryce. If I'm pointing the right way, I get it wrong every single time. It's a running theme. We like to finish the show on a Go Hawks. Now, can we get it in sync? I'll count down from 3. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.